The Democratic Alliance delegation has concluded a work, or should I say, a week-long trip to Washington, D.C. as part of what it says are efforts to stabilize diplomatic relations between South Africa and the United States. The party says it engaged key decision makers to ensure that leaders receive accurate and fact-based information about the country. International Relations Department spokesperson is Chrispin Phiri, and he joins us now to give us the department's reaction. Chrispin, good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. In fact, let me correct myself there. You speak on behalf of the minister. There is another individual who speaks for the department. So what is the minister's reaction tonight on the return of the Democratic Alliance on what they say was a working visit to Washington?
Thank you for welcoming me, and thank you for also correcting yourself quite correctly. I speak on behalf of the minister. And the minister has been quite clear that, look, there's only one person who can represent the government in international relations, or rather two people. It's the president and the minister himself. So they do not represent the people of South Africa, neither do they represent the government of South Africa. They went there on their own frolic, and that's that. And whatever they have achieved cannot be claimed to be on behalf of the Republic. You would recall, Chloe, that the minister himself has been to Washington. A number of other delegations sent by the authority of the president have been to Washington previously to engage on various aspects with various interlocutors on South Africa's foreign policy and also on South Africa's trade policy. So this idea that we now have a government of national unity, therefore even political parties can represent the government, I think is a misnomer. The DA is a non-state actor, and their actions should not be construed as that of the Republic.
Let's try and understand whether you are any clear tonight as to who the key decision makers they met are. And I'm asking that based on the very fact that you've just mentioned, that they are members of the government of national unity, and so it wouldn't be strange to share information in that regard. Are you clear as to who the DA met?
Look, although, yes, you can say that Democratic Alliance as a political party forms part of the parties that form part of the government of national unity. The government of national unity are the officials appointed by the president to represent the government. So there isn't a substructure of political parties that can represent the government. Government officials represent the government only, and those are appointed by the president, and the president himself is a representative of the South African government. So let's clear that up.
Yeah.
As to who they met, I wouldn't know, but what we would say is that in the interactions that we've been having through our ambassador in the United States, Ambassador Rasool, there are a number of very key interlocutors who have not yet been appointed, and that's what we have been saying and have been at pains to say with our domestic audiences, that whilst we have had engagements with key interlocutors in the United States, the ones that we think are strategic and important for us to be able to put forward our perspective and our agenda, domestic agenda and national interests, those interlocutors are not in place. For example, the US Trade Office is not in place. The Bureau for Africa is still undergoing some number of changes, and the individuals there require confirmation in their own administrative process. US Aid has completely been gutted. Initially, it was just a standalone office. Now it's currently being reconfigured in the Office of the Secretary of State. So those type of changes are underway. Even here in South Africa, we now know that Ms. Dana Brown has also resigned. So there are numerous changes that are taking place in the United States. So it would be difficult to sustain a certain level of engagement with the appropriate officials with the current number of changes that are underway.
Yeah. I take your point, Chrispin, that the Democratic Alliance are non-state actors, and so is AfriForum and Solidarity. They absolutely not state actors. But nonetheless, the DA perhaps felt it necessary to make this visit to ostensibly, to use their words, to correct what has been misinformation at times. The concern here, and we've been speaking to an organization, it's called the South African Chamber of Commerce, but the chapter that sits in the US. And their concern, in fact, when we spoke to them last week, was that they are worried that the South African government is taking too long to engage with the Trump administration. In fact, they were disappointed that it was AfriForum that got the chance to meet with the Trump administration. And what is taking so long for the envoys that were announced by the president to go to Washington to ultimately go there and meet the administration?
Yeah, I think that disappointment is slightly misplaced, and it's twofold why I think so. Firstly, to say that Ambassador Rasool is there, and he is engaging at the level at which he can engage at currently. That is the most appropriate level to engage with. Secondly, is to say that non-state actors engage a number of people all the time. Even so, the South African government gets engaged by non-state actors. Any government worth its salt would know how to treat information that it gets from non-state actors. But ultimately, the more valuable information that you can get that is tested, that can be verified, is through the diplomatic channel and is also through the official representatives of that particular government. So, because they hold the authority to, one, implement policy, but also accurately represent what is the will of the people. Like in the instance of AfriForum, it is a particular lobby group that is even disowned by Afrikaners themselves. So their credibility is highly questionable when they go to the United States and say, we represent X, when even their own communities say, no, no, those are not our representatives. In the case of the Democratic Alliance, they're a political party. So they would represent a particular sect of society. The only people who can go there and say, we act on the authority of the Republic, we act in the interest of the Republic, are government representatives, such as Ambassador Rasool, and anyone else who the president may deem appropriate to present a particular message to that particular administration. As far as the question of how far are the envoys and all of that, well, it is important to say that at this stage, we are still continuously assessing what is the best method to engage various actors in the US, but also present South Africa's foreign policy agenda in a manner that we think would further our interests. So we will communicate when we're in a position to do so, what exactly those next steps would be. But as the president had said, the issue of envoys, and our government has said, the issue of envoys is a continuous work in process.
Yeah. Finally, Chrispin, there are calls for AfriForum and Solidarity to be charged with treason for what is said to be misinformation that has been communicated to the White House. And I think to add to the theme treason, even the ANC, which leads the government of national unity, they would say, I had the spokesperson sit here last week who said to me that the actions of AfriForum and Solidarity are, quote unquote, treasonous. Does the department have a position on this?
We note that there are private actors who have opened a case of treason, and that's a matter that the Hawks have confirmed is under investigation. We leave it to law enforcement to determine what exactly those actions can be classified as, and they would then make their recommendations to an independent prosecuting authority, who would then also make their recommendations to an independent judiciary to adjudicate over. So we would leave that process so that at this stage, it wouldn't be in our interest to comment on a case that is under investigation in the law enforcement system.
All right. And as we close, tonight, news coming in that the United States Supreme Court has rejected President Trump's bid to freeze the $2 billion in foreign aid payments. The department, have you applied your minds to that yet? Do you have any comments thus far?
Only that's a decision that has been taken within the domestic walls of the United States of America on how they apply or want to exercise their foreign aid soft power policy. And we would leave it at that. We will ensure that our government is self-sufficient as much as possible, and we are able to fulfill the needs of our people without too much assistance from foreign actors. I think one of the things we are seeing is the importance of self-sufficiency, and we will continue to pursue that to the hills because it is quite important that we are able to fulfill our obligations to our people.
Chrispin Phiri, I thank you very much for your time this evening. He speaks for the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. Thanks for your time.